and welcome back to the
Sorry, I was with
Sons of Aries
No, that's all right.
podcast.
Today we're going to chat more shit.
And more
Perhaps we
good
should
stuff.
introduce ourselves first.
Yeah,
I am Jason Cox.
Matthew Brown.
And Dan Saveri.
Right.
Now you can continue with the topic.
So we were riffing on a couple of ideas just before we started, kind of trying to tie in the former episodes about personality, video games, game types, and also the influence of schooling and our reaction to it and development from schooling. What you say more about that, Dan?
Yeah, I think that should be pertinent to anyone really, because I can't decide if you haven't developed that much from how you were at school / as a teenager. Have you done really well? Like you were just perfect already, out the box, mint, action hero collectible, or have you cocked up by not improving yourself in some way? Now, obviously, with a caveat that some people, due to unfortunate incident, circumstance, whatever, will go downhill. We've all seen them, we've all known them. If you're like me, you've been it for a bit. But in general, you like to think that the more you learn, the more you do, the more you learn about yourself, the better you get. So let's prompt Jace to do some talking here. How do you think you were at school, and how have you developed since then?
So I think most of my development came after school, where I become more confident, more sort of outgoing, and actually tried to improve myself, basically. Whereas at school, I didn't feel much of a necessity to do so. I was like mucking around, basically. So
Interesting you hit on tried to improve yourself.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Do you
Definitely.
think that's...
It was a very conscious attempt after a while, so I realised it started to happen with the help of certain people such as yourself, and then really that sort of like spurred on, like, oh, actually, if I actually put some more effort into this, I can actually level up a bit more here. So
So you need to see, I guess, like a proof of concept beforehand?
yeah, like proof that it can be done and not too difficult, basically.
So,
Yeah.
so what were you? I know you mentioned what you were trying to become afterwards, but what were you aware of as your deficiencies, or what was it? Because when you leave school, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you grow up and you become men, or so like you change anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was it that stood out to you?
So in school, I always felt like, comparatively to now, I felt like I was always more of an underdog then, because I looked around and saw, I think we touched on it in the previous episode, is that I looked around and saw people doing so much better than myself academically. People just seem to understand things easier and be able to answer questions better, interact better, in that environment, and especially with obviously what comes to it at the end is doing the essays, doing the exams, and that fact was, as I've said before, really difficult for me.
Yeah.
So I felt a lot more pressure and felt like I was a lot shitter just in general, like I was dealt a shit hand basically, and there we go.
Did you copy and paste your law essay off Wikipedia, or was that Jake?
That was me.
That's what we had before ChatGPT used to cheat. in
Yeah.
exams.
No, I copied a lot from it because I was
Okay.
lost for words, as it were. 2,000 words to them was a lot for me
Yes,
to come
yeah.
up with. So I thought, how the fuck am I going to come up with 2,000 words regarding dogs and their bad behaviour is what the topic
Oh, yeah,
was.
that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
Dangerous dogs.
dangerous dogs acts and all that. And yeah, I mean, I could say a few words about it, but as I said, I wasn't academically gifted, so I couldn't just like riff off a load of shit regarding that. When it comes to law.
But I think that's just how you think, though, because you think in a very, well, obviously this is the answer way. So a lot of academia or school or whatever is
show your work in.
showing your work,
Yeah.
exactly. Or,
Explain more, yeah.
a lot of it's basically pretentious, making stuff up and padding it out, isn't it, really? Because you know the fucking answer.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like for me, yeah.
To these things.
It was a lot of like unnecessary padding, and I couldn't even come up with any words to pad, basically.
So you've touched on the academic side a lot. What about the personal side of things? How do you feel in yourself? Don't worry about looking at other people writing shitloads in exams or whatever. What about the self?
So obviously earlier years of secondary school I was in a small group of like not. I wasn't with like a popular lot, so we were very like sort of outcasty. So there, it felt a bit. Not that I was unhappy with that. I was fine with the guys I was with, but looking back, it was very like not with the groups who develop. It was very like I don't know, cut and shut. Is that the right phrase, sort of thing? Like a sort of group of people.
What were the kids who developed? Like, what were they up to, or what was it that you were seeing them do?
It just seemed like there was a lot more like interaction or
Social composition.
yeah, social like
Not to speak.
cohesion between a bigger group
Yeah.
and a lot more of a spider web of interaction rather than like just a few people
Right.
in the corner sort of thing.
Yeah. I remember you guys. You did kind of stand as long as on that grass bank on the other side.
Yeah.
You'd just sit there or stand there, whatever, and just do your own kind of nerdy little inside jokes.
Yeah.
Not that we don't do that now. To
Oh
be
yeah.
fair. But I remember, I won't name the names obviously because it will mean nothing to anyone anyway.
Yeah.
But even if you guys just, it was obvious to me as an onlooker that you were acting as just like, sorry, the fucking loser
Yeah.
kids in the background,
Yeah.
and that
One of the various groups of that ilk. Yeah.
There were a few.
Like if you picture like a big town, we were like one of the groups of villages surrounding it.
Little hamlets.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
inbred
little
village.
hamlet. Yeah. Learn from Ivanhoe. But yeah.
So what was the point then, at which you went, I can be more than this?
I don't know if there was a point. I mean, I think it's a slow process of slowly getting more confidence and then like wanting that to basically compound. Like you see, like when you see a bit of results, you're like, you start chasing that dragon sort of thing. Chasing the dragon. The chaos.
So like when you first see
Yeah,
bicep growing a
and
little bit.
also getting like when you start to get obviously with that you get some sort of feedback of like you're doing better. It's like, oh, that feels good, or that seems like it should be right or is right, and you're sort of spurred on or driven to push that further.
So what did you see as doing better in the personal or social sphere? So obviously like academically, you big number go brr.
Yeah, so one would probably allude to like interaction with girls and getting better at that, and also just like sort of on the dating scene as it were, or being able to cop off and
Right. Be attractive to people.
yeah
Right. Because I guess.
physically and mentally
Pop off, it's like
Yeah.
1970.
Or to finger people behind bins.
The bins were too small for that.
yeah
So it's about acceptance, I suppose. Because the last thing you want, you don't want it now, but when you're a teenager, the last thing in the world that's your nightmare is go up to a girl you think is alright, and she just thinks you're a prick,
Yeah.
or laughs at you as like you're not even something
not even
to
just
consider.
a rejection, but further than that, like the next level of rejection.
Well, that's one of the things you get used to as you get used to as you grow up. Is just that like that's not actually the end of the world.
No.
Right, because it
No,
seems
no,
because
yeah.
when you're a kid, it seems like the worst thing that could possibly ever
that
happen.
you're putting 100% in, and if you
Yeah.
get shut down, that's you done.
because
Like,
it's
you
someone
have used all your quota.
rejecting you as
Yeah.
a person.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
oh no,
Yeah.
I'm insufficient. and
Especially
useless.
when you're that young and you don't have the knowledge or awareness to go, this isn't forever, I can improve.
Yeah.
You don't realise that's an option.
No,
you just
you
kind
do
of
feel
think
like
you're
you're-
fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a shame. So I guess leading on from that would be, how do you think you?
Attain that.
Yeah. How did you do it basically? Tell me. I need to know. My God.
So one would be, when I started going to the gym, obviously I started going with you, Matt, was one of the first times, and so progressing in that, and then obviously seeing some results through time, and then again, like I say, feedback, all compounding together, along with improving myself mentally as well, and discovering that I actually have the ability to learn and understand more, and the more you do that, I think that does compound, because then you're able to then expand out to understand other various topics, and it's sort of like a spider web. It gets wider and wider and wider, sort of thing.
You build a foundation,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Well, and you watch yourself succeed at something, and you're like, oh shit, I can do that.
Yeah.
You learn something about yourself, and you're like, oh, actually, I do have a capacity I didn't think I had, or I thought it wasn't that big of a capacity that I have, and then it's something you can work on and develop.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is the will to be more, because you very much cast yourself as the Wally from a young age, and you acted like it.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
that's my lot. I guess I have to be happy with that.
Mm.
I would assume would be your thought process. But I remember clearly, I was aware of you for a couple of years.
Yeah, I was aware
but
of
you
you.
sat with me and
Yeah.
what was it? What?
Media was the what?
Yeah. What is that? I suppose it's pre-GCSE, isn't it?
Year 9.
Yeah,
Like,
you
yeah.
sat there and I was like, oh, this guy's actually not the fucking idiot. I thought,
Yeah.
it wasn't unjustified.
No.
But I thought
Oh,
that 'cause you
no.
were acting like a tit all the time.
I was a clown, so
You were
I was
listening,
I was like a bit of a performer, basically.
Yeah.
Like, performing clown, monkey.
I'd have never thought that you were technically introverted.
Yeah, I know.
As is the truth.
Yeah.
I thought you were full fucking
Yeah.
mentalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ESFP.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But I noticed quickly, like, he understands what's going on. He's responding to what I'm saying. A lot of my marker for if someone's intelligent is if I make a fairly snarky joke and they get it, and you always got them. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I can work with this shit.
Yeah, picking up on stuff.
But there's something I remember because
I don't remember that. Like,
I
obviously, because I
always-
wasn't auditioning. It's not like I
No.
was thinking.
Well,
Audition for Ren.
I've got to try.
you're always auditioning.
Yeah,
when I'm
true.
there. But I remember really clearly, like, I just wanted you to see that potential that was in the raw material of yourself at that time. Because I could see what was developing in you, not just someone who was thoughtful and thinking about stuff and wanting to learn, but I could see that you had a lot of potential, that people fucking liked you. They thought you were nice, they thought you were funny, and once you got rid of those awful M&S shirts and that stuff, you were starting to look alright.
Yeah.
And I remember really good, I marched you around the sixth form block,
Marched
going to all the girls like, what do you think of him? He's good, isn't he? Yeah, he's really nice. I was like, I fucking told you.
Yeah. I
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do actually. Sort of, like vaguely. I don't remember specifically, but I remember the attitude of what you're saying. Yeah.
Because I think it's a kind of common theme, like, we've spoken about this with you today, Matt, but it makes me kind of sad when people can't see their own potential. I'm not saying you're like down on yourself in like a there is a light and it never goes out kind of thing, but you when people clearly have something about them and they don't say they don't want to use it, because that's maybe a bit cynical, but don't realise it, because it's not just you who's losing out, it's the people around you who might need that as well.
Sure. No, I think it's like you said it right the first time. It's that people sometimes don't see their own successes and their own failures. Right, we can be blind to those kinds of things.
Often intentionally.
Yeah, willfully, we can be willfully blind.
Things set your course. You think, I've been cast as this, whether it's a role or whatever the hell someone thinks you are, or what your lot is. And people go, well, I know I did well there, but, I was told I was a prick, so I must be a prick, and therefore anything to the contrary doesn't count. Sorry, doing air quotes there, even if the evidence is overwhelming.
A really interesting book I listened to the audio version a few years ago called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it was written in the 50s by a cosmetic surgeon who would perform surgeries on people who
Sounds quite ahead of its time a little bit.
Well, yeah, quite. And it's he had so he would perform surgeries on people who had like facial scars or like little ticks or moles or whatever it is, things people didn't like about themselves. And he noticed how the rate at which when he changed someone's physical features, that their personality either would or wouldn't change. So like say for someone who's like fairly handsome or good looking or whatever, they're in a car crash and they get like a facial scar. Formerly before that they were like confident, cock of the walk, they were in charge of their life, all the rest of it. Now all of a sudden they've got this thing on their face and they diminish. They become less of a person because now they're self-conscious about this feature on their face, and he comes along and he can like rectify the scar so it's basically not visible anymore. And he was interested in the fact that, because you'd think, given that like someone who's confident, then facial scar, not confident, diminished, that if you were to fix the scar, it would go back.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so his point, which is kind of like what you're talking, is this kind of self-talk. This kind of like, you have this kind of preconceived notion of yourself in your head that you are convinced is the case, and even if you can rectify something outward about it, the fact that you're saying this to yourself perpetuates it. So I think the principle in the book was something like, be careful how you talk about yourself because you're listening. Right? So you can be telling things to yourself that aren't necessarily true. One of the examples was, oh, well, I'm always late. Oh, I'm just one of those people who's always kind of late. I'm always
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah,
right.
And then you kind of like you
manifest that.
You gotta manifest it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's funny how we can, like, even when there's not necessarily anything wrong with you, you're just convinced that there is, or and then you put that out to the world, and then everyone responds to what you think about yourself rather than other capacities you might actually have.
So you kind of create that echo chamber around yourself. Where, well, everyone's reacting to me in this way, so I must be like, yeah, but of course they're going to react to you like that because that's what you're fucking being. Like, that Darren Brown thing I reference a lot. Like, no matter what your intention is inside, if everyone thinks you're rude, then you are rude.
Yeah.
They're like, I was just trying to do this, doesn't matter. You're acting like a prig.
The result is the same. Yeah.
And that's your lot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so with the people who fuck things up, and then they're like, oh, well, I meant well, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter, right? You keep messing things up. It doesn't matter that you mean well when you do it. The end result is that you've screwed something up for people. Sure, you can be given the benefit of the doubt the first 2 or 3 times maybe, but then you need to pick up and learn that how you're going about it isn't.
And you got to listen, because people will tell you what you fucked up.
Well, either verbally or by not associating with you, just being like, well, I'm not having that person in my life, because he's a nuisance or whatever the reason is.
No, I get that. You get a lot of people, particularly who are very wallflowery, introverted people, right? Often their main worry is everyone's going to leave me behind or not like me. So what they do is, just by how they naturally are, make it so that it's absolutely inevitably going to be the case.
Yeah.
If you're no matter if you're just socially nervous or something, if you're going around in places and your demeanour you're giving off is don't want to talk to me in any circumstance or like that, then everyone is just going to fuck you up.
And then they'll stop inviting you.
Yeah, and then
especially if you say no. If you say no a few times,
and then you're right. You get to be right about. Look, I told you.
Which is funny because they seem to love it. But, people would rather be right than be happy.
They love drowning in their own sorrow, sort of thing.
It's fucked up, man. It's that attitude I see a lot as someone who can be a bit of a martyr, talking to people who. Right, there's a right way and a wrong way to be depressive, right? Because really though, because you can go, oh, I've got to get myself out of this. Come on, this isn't good enough. This is ridiculous. Or you get people like, well, I've done all that before, and I've been positive before, and it went badly, and now I'm just worse. No, I'm not. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Right. You see that kind of shit a lot.
Well, yeah, but there is value in victimhood, right? There's social benefit to be gained from being the person on the receiving end of hardship, right? Sympathetic people. We were talking about Munchausen's earlier.
Yeah.
Like someone pretending to be really severely ill because it gets them a whole lot of attention, and that's there's you're like what you were saying a second ago. In the long term, that person's going to lose loads of people from their life, or their life outcome. Like in the long run, probably isn't going to be very good because their relationships aren't going to be sturdy because they're going to be manipulating people emotionally around them all the time. But in the short term, it can get you little short to medium term benefits from having everyone believe that you're a victim, because you get sympathy, right? And then you get to be right about being a victim, right? You get to feel sorry for yourself, lick your wounds. People around you go, "Oh, poor matey boy. Oh, he's always trying. He's a nice guy," but nothing ever works out for him, and that's for some. Well, that's enough for some people. Sometimes that's like enough. That's enough social capital.
They think it's all they can get.
Right.
But like you said, there's a short shelf life, really diminishing returns on that, because you get people like that. Talking from quite a lot of experience actually. When you're with a person like that, every single thing that happens or that you do happens revolving around the centre of gravity that is their complex or their trauma, right? So everything kind of good or positive that you say is an attack on them, or is framed around, well, this happened to me before, so anything you do will make you exactly like these people before. And how does the same thing always keep happening to me? I don't understand. It's not fair. It's magic. Like, no, it fucking ain't magic.
Yeah. No, I've been
so
in this
many times.
for many years.
And that's actually a really important thing to work out if you are someone like that, is to try, if you can try and get out of that and take a more detached, top-down view of it, then I think you'll be really surprised by the positive results you see of that.
Well, and it's the difference between like internalizing, like an internal locus of control and an external locus of control. Because if everything that goes wrong in your life is at the fault of everyone else around you in the universe, you have zero fucking control over everyone else around you in the universe.
Yeah. Oh, so I'll just spot some injections.
So you're screwed, right? Whereas if your attitude is it's like disposition over position, right? So like your mindset over your situation. So you can be in like whatever horrible situation, but the locus of control is internal, which is, well, what do I have control over in this situation, no matter what it is, and what can I do about it? What is within my control and what isn't in my control? I'm not going to worry about the things that aren't in my control, and I'm going to focus on the things that I do have control over, which are most of the things I do about myself, because I'm me and I have the most control over that, because here I am, it's me, and I don't have any control. I have very little control over you, very little control over you, or what's going on out in the world.
Yeah.
You smoking that?
But no, I think that's absolutely right, and I don't know. Obviously, control is a loaded term for a lot of people, but it's more about
like influence sort of thing.
Yeah, as long as you are.
No, I meant like can do anything about, like in terms of strategies for dealing with things that aren't going on in your life.
Yeah, but you're right in that the biggest change you can make is an internal one. Whether if you're always depending on, well, I didn't get that right, or I failed that exam, or I didn't get that deal, and I don't have another 15.
Very negative.
Whatever, of course,
superficial.
You'd like that to go well, but you're not understanding that, either. So example of what I'm talking about with kind of sales stuff. Sometimes, no matter how good you are, that motherfucker was never gonna buy it. So it's not your fault. Don't get down. Or there's other ones in life where what went wrong isn't like because you suck. It simply is because you need to have a change of perspective about yourself and believe a better thing about yourself. I think everyone knows deep down who or how they need to be, or has some kind of idea of it. Because normally it's the thing that you're fucking shit scared of.
Yeah.
If you're terrified of something internal, that's nature's way of telling you this is how you have to be. And if you can get over that, if you can surmount that thing that seems insurmountable, you'll be shocked at how much better you do. Or at least how much better you feel. And basically at the end of the day, that's what matters, because all you really interact with, no matter what you have in the physical world, what you interact with is if you're happy with it or not.
Yeah.
So if you can get that bit right, if you feel right, then ironically stuff will come to you and you'll realise that it didn't really matter anyway.
Right, well, and to use your examples, like you can fail an exam, you can fail to to close a sale or achieve whatever goal it is, and then at the end of the day when you go to bed in the evening, you're settled in the fact that, oh, well, I know I did this, I practiced, I did my revision, I did my research about the client, about the product, like I knew what I was talking about, I did all of the things I could possibly do to secure this, and it failed, and it's like, well, I did everything I could do, and so I'm not going to beat myself up over the loss, because sometimes you lose, it's life, right?
Yeah, exactly. So long as you conduct yourself in good faith, and crucially you don't bottle it, then you've got nothing to be ashamed of. I think, because you all know when you're like,
oh yeah, when
I
you
should have done
fumbled
this.
it.
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, you know, like,
definitely.
I shouldn't have missed
You
that
know,
chance.
because you think about it for days and weeks after.
Yeah.
And you go, should have done that. If you're thinking
that was something that was
yeah.
within your control
Yeah.
to change.
Yeah.
Now you can make a mistake. Let's talk about like a football context. Easier for us to get, right? I think if you go through on a one-on-one an important game and you miss it, of course you can have a go at your competence, but it's so much better than if you didn't take the shot in case you fucking missed it, because that's what will really keep you up at night.
Yeah.
Do you remember when England went out of that last World Cup? And obviously Harry Kane missed that penalty. And we were talking like, do you know what? He's always scored them. No other fucker stepped up to do it.
Yeah.
He had a go.
Yeah.
He missed it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know, of course, you statistically should score it.
Yeah. But you're not
it's
going to get on
better,
his back.
but
Yeah.
there was never a chance he was going to, if there was another one, he wouldn't go, oh shit, can you take it?
He will always step up.
And that's the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good old Harry. Anyway, sorry for the amount of times I've shouted at the TV at you this summer, mate. So, segue back to the main essay question. Matt, you've had a very interesting character arc yourself. So start from kind of how you were at school, kind of how you perceived yourself and everything around you.
So I remember being... Well, I've always been in my head a lot. I remember being quite sad as a kid. I didn't externalise that. At primary school, I think I did a little bit.
Do you mean sad as in you weren't happy, or sad as in like, oh, you sad out?
No, as in not happy. I think because my parents broke up when I was a kid or whatever, and then it was quite impactful on me. I remember when I got to secondary school, very similar to you, Jason. Actually, I kind of adopted the clown, the joker. I'm gonna fool around, mess around, make jokes, not take things seriously, not do my work or whatever, or get out of, I don't know, be. I had some charm with it as well, so I got away with it.
You have a very high charisma stat.
With teachers, and
Yeah.
they was some of them would chastise me or whatever, but I got away with it with a lot of them because I don't know.
Pass the check, basically. Yeah. You rolled the dice and
Yeah,
got 6.
yeah. I didn't take school seriously at all for the first 3 years. I just pissed around, messed around. The whole thing was a playground to me. I would just walk out of classes and just go off and do something, or I was never destructive or a bully, or I wasn't hyper dysfunctional. I was just wayward. I was just I'm going to leave now and I'm not going to do my homework. Or they were like, oh, if you, or my homework would be, you give me a sheet of paper to fill out and there's things on it. My homework has been done.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care if it's a.
Did you almost see it as how much you could get away with, almost like a test of let's see how much I can not do here, at points.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was I think I wondered how much control I had over the environment. Well, I was before we were getting some lunch, we were talking about delusions of grandeur or god complexes. I think it was just and speaking about charisma, I think I was curious. I became aware that I could be charming. That I'm tiptoeing around the word manipulative, but I think I should use it.
Okay. Yeah.
I realised I could be I could get what I wanted out of people. I could talk my way in and out of situations. We were talking earlier about in sixth form, I dropped 3 of my classes, and I was asking why the hell did anyone let me do that? And because I convinced them to. I could say, speaking of external and internal locuses of control, I could say, oh, it's the incompetencies of the sixth form heads or my sixth form teachers, and it may have been. Maybe they didn't give a shit. Maybe they were just whatever, mate, do what you want, right?
It did seem that way sometimes.
Definitely. I think it's a little column A, little column
It's kind of
B.
academic triage, to be honest. We've got a lot of people to look after if you don't care.
Yeah. You do what you want, mate.
Yeah.
If you don't want.
You were just a number.
Yeah, and also, like I said, I wasn't that disruptive.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like
Yeah,
I was.
you weren't horrible.
Yeah, I
You
wasn't. It
weren't-
wasn't like I was being that much of a nuisance.
Yeah.
But so they're like, look, if you don't want to be here, you have to be here. Whatever, you're here. If you don't want to do your classes, don't do your classes. So maybe it wasn't convincing or whatever, but it felt like it at the time because I had to sit down and justify why I wanted to drop it.
Yeah.
And I like in my
I probably felt like it was more hassle than it was worth.
my reasons were always things like, well, especially when it got down to I had 2 classes, English language and law, and I was like, I want to drop my English language class, and they were like, why do you want to do that? And because bear in mind, this was like sixth form was supposed to be like the thing you do before you go to university, and I wasn't interested in going to university. I didn't think of myself as like academically capable
At that point.
at that point.
Yeah.
And for a very long time afterwards.
Yeah.
And so even when everyone was doing their personal statements in the library or whatever, I just didn't do it. I was just sat on the computer. I think I had like a list of 1,000 things to do to pass the time and was just going through it instead. And yeah, I like socially I flitted. I was kind of like a bit of a, I would go from like group to group to group to group. Like I would kind of, I'd like just
The butterfly.
yeah, like I would just walk around. I'd hang out with someone in the morning, and then someone else, another group at lunch. I'd come see you guys in the afternoon, or I'd go play football on the field, or whatever it was. I'd like kind of just, as and when I felt like it, I was like, well, I'm bored now. I'm going to go
Like
over
a
here.
ping pong machine.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to go and talk to these people over here. I'm going to see what's going on over here. I'm not following this conversation, so I'm going to have a little wander.
Okay.
Why do you think you did that though? Is it because you didn't think you had enough? Okay, because I've done similar things to that, and my reason for kind of running away, going to another conversation, is because I'm worried I haven't got enough, and they're going to work out that I'm not really there, so I have to run away before I get exposed. Do you think it's a similar thing?
Maybe sometimes. I don't remember feeling like that. I remember I really think it's because I was just a little. I am whimsical, I do just.
So I guess the question there is: did you feel like you had to leave that group, or did you wanted to join another group? What was the? Was it more you were being? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do, and I think
Yeah.
the answer is no to both of those points.
Okay.
I think there's a third thing that was
Okay.
going on, which was that I think because I was just in my head. And well, actually, no, not so much. I think I was. I don't think it's I was. Maybe I get maybe actually I take that back. Maybe it was because I got bored.
Okay.
Right. Maybe it was because like
You've spent your
like,
points here,
Yeah,
and
like,
you had to move on to it then.
Yeah, or I was just curious, or like, well, and also I think I was also because I was just friends with like, or not friends, like I got on with lots of different people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to go talk to Matey Boy over here because I haven't seen him for a couple of days, or I'm going to go hang out with Johnny Quayton, or whatever, or yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily like. Well, maybe it was. Maybe I'm doing my fucking in the middle thing again.
Yeah. Yeah. But the point is, yeah, you didn't feel like you were being. You wanted to get away from the group, or it wasn't that you wanted to specifically go to it.
Yeah, it was never a rejection of people.
Yeah.
It was just like I'm gonna go off and.
Yeah.
I've always done that. I've always I'm as and when I feel like I'm gonna go off and do my own thing, I go off and do my own thing. It's
Yeah,
like
we know.
when we're on holiday or like people go around in a group and then I just disappear. I'm away for a few hours and I'll go
Off on some bout of whimsy.
Yeah. Or something catches my eye. I'll just like stand and like
Oh, shiny thing.
oh, look at the shiny. But Frankie Boyle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and then it was, I think year 9. So we were like 14. I think I had a couple of conversations with a couple of teachers that made me buck up my act a little bit, but that really just turned into and it wasn't really bucking up my act. It was more like the appearance of bucking up my act because I realized
just saying what they wanted to hear.
Well, yeah, because I was like, because my main thing for most of my life has been I want people to leave me alone so I can do what I want, and go and be with the people I want to be, go and do what I want, and things that get in the way of that are annoying to me. And then teachers wanting me to do my homework became
What's
that.
another? Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do the literal bare minimum that I have to do to get you off my back, so I can continue doing what I want. Which is kind of how I remember it. And then sixth form was again just like it was just like
the continuation of that.
like, it's a continuation.
Okay,
of
so
that.
where do you think the changes started to occur?
Well, they didn't for like quite a while. Like my early working life again was just getting my parents off my back, because they were like, "We have to go and do something." I was like, "Well, I'll go do something then." I didn't start enjoying anything until I went to work with my dad in London doing construction work.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that more, I think, than I allowed myself to at the time, looking back at it. I think I really because I'd been let go from a job and was unemployed and doing loads of temp work, and then my dad was like, "You can't just sit at home and do fuck all the time, so you're going to come to work with me." I think I resented that a little bit. I think I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. Mainly because I just it was the bit where you were saying we went to start going to the gym. That was when I started training, and I was doing steel work, so my job was lifting bits of steel around building sites for the day. So I kind of enjoyed that because you're just carrying big bits of steel up and downstairs or moving it around and whatnot, and then training in the evening. But it was after that I did my personal training course, because it was like
I remember.
well, because and also in my early 20s I was pretty depressed. I was drinking a lot. I would drink during the day. I'd drink and drive to work or whatever. I'd work at a pub and drink there and drive home and all the rest of it. And then Morgan was because he was a university friend of ours. He finished uni, called me up, and I hadn't spoken to him in two years or whatever it was. And he asked me how I was doing, and for some strange fucking reason I told him the truth. Because I wasn't telling it, I was just pretending to be fine or whatever. I think also because I had this kind of grandiose notion of myself when I was at school, everything will be fine, everything will work itself out, I don't have to try and do academic stuff or whatever, don't worry about it, I'll be fine. I'll be great, I'm Matt Brown, things will be awesome. And then you go out, I left school and was like, oh, no one gives a shit about the fact that I'm me, right? You have to offer something to people to be valuable, right? And I didn't really have anything other than a little bit of charisma or whatever. And so I think that I was pretty depressed about that, and so I was drinking a lot. And he called me up and he was like, "Well, how are you doing?" And then, like I said, I told him the truth.
Yeah.
And he was like, "All right, well, tomorrow you're going to go online. You're going to get a gym membership at this gym, and we're going to go train. You're going to come every day, and because it gave me a reason not to drink.
Right. Yeah.
Because I had to get in the car and drive to the gym.
Yeah.
And train, so you
can't be pissed.
But you
could be, but
perform.
Sure. Okay. A good drive. To get out.
To stop doing that, which worked pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of I fell in love with training. And I really got into it.
It's also someone on your side as well, with you doing that. He's almost not a mentor, but like a pal.
Because it was someone was pick yourself up and get to work. Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
Off you go.
I'm there.
Just a little nudge. That's just all you really needed, really. And did my PT course. I was still I was quite resentful generally, and entitled. In my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, kind of felt like the world owed me success, owed me money, a house or car, whatever it was. I shouldn't have to work for this stuff. What kind of insane world is constructed that I have to fucking work for shit? And so even when I got this job as a personal trainer, which was a really good opportunity for a new company, I wasn't self-employed, I was employed, it was salaried. I had the opportunity to manage a couple of their centers, one of their centers that they were running, and then because I was still in this kind of entitled mindset, I wasn't willing to put the work in to be good at that, to get loads of clients in. I was a good personal trainer. The clients we did have, I had some really, really awesome success stories and got on with everybody and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But
We can believe that easily, yeah.
well, I wasn't willing to put the work in to be
Yeah.
great at it, and then I became resentful of the job, and then eventually they fired. Well, I quit and they fired me on the same day. Like,
Alright.
we had a meeting and I was like, I quit, and they were like, oh, good, because we were going to fire you, like today.
Oh.
Like we were gonna, today was the day we were going to tell you to stop. And then Jake, another friend, he got me a job working for the insurance company, and I was there for 2.5 years. That was pretty, like, doing sales, and that was during a period where, like, you know, a lot of drinking, drugs, partying, like, you know, just a very sort of hedonistic.
So sales then.
Yeah, sales. And yeah, and then the point I think where I really changed was halfway through that job at the insurance company. I was also pretty angry. My relationships with women weren't great. Again, being entitled, I felt like I was just entitled to affection and love from people. I shouldn't have had to put effort into relationships or be open or all the rest of it. And so halfway through the insurance job, I was reading through my contract and saw that I was entitled to take a career break.
Oh yeah, sabbatical.
Sabbatical kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to do that. Like, cause I'm bored, I fucking don't want to work.
I've got it, I want to use it.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, basically. So I was like, oh, well, I'll do that now. Then.
Okay.
I didn't know that was a thing. Because I was working just so I could get people off my back and go out and enjoy myself. And I thought, well, if I can take a few months off and go away and have a bit of a balmy, that'd be good fun. And so I booked a trip to Southeast Asia, despite the fact that just like a year before, I'd expressed to someone who I was with at the time that I couldn't be bothered to leave the country, didn't want to explore, wasn't interested in going away or whatever. I don't remember exactly what changed my mind.
Did a big 180 on that.
Yeah. Probably because another woman I was attracted to was talking about it. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Anyway, I went on this trip and
You found yourself.
Bro. I wasn't going to say it. One more thing. I know I've been talking for a while. But I was, about 2016, I started having pretty severe issues with anxiety, probably from drinking and drugs and all the rest of it. And
yeah, that didn't help.
And also stuff I wasn't, like, just stuff I was refusing to deal with from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And young adulthood and all the rest of it. Just kind of like, you know.
Building up.
Yeah, and then just like spilled over, and then you're no longer in control of everything. And so I was having fairly severe anxiety, like panic attacks, like 2 or 3 times a day.
I remember you telling me about all this, at the time.
Yeah, and for about a couple of months, just like, I was still going to work, I still, like, I didn't, like, lay in bed or whatever, I was still getting up and getting at it, but, like, I was, like, my heart rate would go up, I'd stop being able to hear, my chest would get tight, my skin would feel like it's on fire or like electric.
Oh, full like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, no, as in like, yeah.
I remember you describing it to me once, and you said you just felt like you were dying. Like
just an impending sense of doom.
That was the sentence
like,
you used.
It was just like it was like the hijacking of your fight or flight. You just get this massive adrenaline dump for no fucking reason whatsoever, and then it passes, and then it comes back again, and then it passes, and then it comes back again. And then so I went to Southeast Asia, and they'd kind of calmed down a little bit. This was like 6 or 7 months after they'd started. And so I was having 2 or 3 a week rather than 2 or 3 a day. And I got there and they just stopped. Like, just stopped. And I think it was because I had shit to do. Like, everything was immediate. And I didn't have time to be reflexive and in my own head and to get caught into cycles about whatever it was I was freaking out about. That all of a sudden there's this whole world around you. It's alien. You don't know it. It's a culture you don't
need to
know.
switch on.
Pay the fuck attention because otherwise you're going to get screwed over.
Wrong. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like all of a sudden I had stuff to focus on. And then I came back. I went back to the insurance job for because it was a sabbatical, so I had to go back.
Yeah.
And then on day one, I was sat at the computer and was like, I can't stay here. I can't do this. I can't come back to the insurance job or office job because I was. Because I think it was I was just angry prior to that, like all the time. It wasn't necessarily pleasant to be around. Like at work, I was very blunt, kept myself to myself, and just didn't feel. It felt like I wasn't. Like I shouldn't be there. Felt like there was like after like going and seeing somewhere so new and alien, it felt wrong coming back.
Yeah.
And just going back to what I was doing before, especially when I was miserable. And so that's when I booked my trip to New Zealand. I went and did a working holiday in New Zealand for 10 months. And it was very much in that period between just before going to Thailand or Southeast Asia and New Zealand where I was beginning to I was beginning to think more. I was beginning to I had this weird brain epiphany where my brain was like, you have to start using me or I'm going to stop working properly. So I started reading, I started listening to viewpoints politically that were different from my own. I started, because my family is some of my friends are kind of left-wing-ish, so I started listening to right-wing voices, the people you were supposed to dislike, or just conservative perspectives, American and US, and and just kind of exposing. I started exposing myself to just different ways of thinking, to kind of break myself out of my own dogmas and my own traps or my own sort of like shit logic that was going on inside of my head, and started listening to people like Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand, Jonathan Haidt, Steven Pinker, kind of public intellectual types. Became interested in like kind of theological, philosophical and psychological discussions. And then it was when I was in New Zealand, I decided, because I had to come home, and then I was like, I've run out of track of wandering around just fucking enjoying myself.
Yeah.
I have to go home now. I don't have any money to go anywhere else. And I can't go back and do what I was doing before because it's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Like I was miserable, angry, bitter. I can't go back and I can't just keep going from job to job to job to job because I'm just gonna blow up. So I decided to go to school. I was like, well, I'll go put yourself through college. You've found these new things you're interested in, like go and and I had some moral issues I wanted to contend with. So go to university. Also, I came home, went to college for a year, and then went to Edinburgh University to study philosophy. And I've just graduated. So that's a very long answer to that question, but you asked.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of development from travelling and then, well, basically, yeah, discovering yourself or what you want or what you're looking to do and improve yourself in certain ways, and then doing that, and that's where you are now.
Well, it sounds to me like it's a crusade to find out what is real. Not just externally, but about you, because there seems to be a lot of kind of revelations and imposter syndrome type anecdotes there. So that's what it seems to me. You're looking for what's real and what your place is and what you can tolerate or what like gets you hard, basically.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
that is, well, it seems to be your thing, is that crusade for truth.
Something like that, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, The Crusade for Truth, Matt Brown. That's your memoirs.
Yeah.
I'll leave a sex tape. The long, hard path to truth.
It's certainly hard.
But that is interesting because there are elements of you that are similar, there's a through line, but you are demonstrably very different to if I were to have plotted your journey knowing you as a teenager.
Yeah, 100%.
To how you are now, I never would have seen you as a
thinker.
No, I always knew he was smart. I could tell because I remember we weren't like double close or anything.
No.
But I could always tell that we understood what the other was on about.
Yeah.
100%. So I could tell that you have what we now know is intuition, I mean, I knew you had that, but yeah, I didn't think you as someone who would be, for want of a better term, somewhat of a crusader, but less loaded and less obnoxious than that. You know, because you definitely are someone who, but that's correct though, isn't it? Because you certainly pull me up when I get a bit Caesar-y.
Caesar-y.
which is every day.
Chicken Caesar salad.
Yeah.
But that's not to be disagreeable. It's not to be a dick. It's not to go, look how smart I am. It's because you're trying to make sure that everything that's going on around you isn't just a fucking dumpster fire.
Yeah. I would say dysfunction. Mainly, I think it comes from the fact that I've watched myself be tyrannical. I've watched myself be manipulative. I think the reason why I'm so crusadey and righteous about some things is because I'm perfectly capable of how awful I can be as a human being. And when I see other people engaged in the same thing, if it was unacceptable when I was doing it, and it was, then it's unacceptable when someone else is doing it. Kind of, no matter the justifications.
Yeah.
And I also do have a fairly low opinion of my own capacities, and I'm reluctant to let go of that because, although I'd have to be careful not to overcorrect, so I don't want to undermine myself. But like I was saying to you earlier, like people can be wrong, right? Like I watch people be so certain about what is real to them and what needs to be done or how we should respond to things. And look, I know I should bracket this with, I also do this. Like I've sent some emails recently. I believe things to be true, and I think I make claims about how things ought to be done, and so I'm not doing a holier than thou thing. I think not dumpster fire is probably a good summary of how I'd like things to be.
It sounds like
it seems achievable.
So you're interested in the line basically between zealotry and genuine conviction. Because they can seem murky, basically. Because you don't know which is which until it's proven that they're right or wrong.
Right, yes.
And you don't know that.
And it's not obvious when it's
follow
happening.
The course.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you should pay very close attention to what you're doing when you're very passionate about something, because your passion is a bias, it's a blinder. And I'm not to take it back to something we spoke about in a former episode, like the kind of left-wing radical politics that I pay attention to. I actually have no problem with their philosophy as something that exists in thought space, right? I defend their right to describe the world how they want to describe it, defend their right to say how, given what they believe about the world, to say how things ought to be, right? I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's the bit where they cross that little line between, and everyone's going to do this as well.
Or else.
Right? Yes. Right. Or not, we're just going to make you. We'll do it covertly, and we'll manipulate you and trick you, and we'll capture education, and we'll produce knowledge that we can use to push for policies that we want, bypass the electorate and all the rest. So it's like that I have there's a very thin line for me between, you can think what you want and say what you want, I really don't care, even if it's really fucking horrible, really offensive, or just generally not nice, right? I have a tremendous amount of patience for pretty much anything anyone will say. But there's like a really tiny little line where it's like, and now you're acting on it, or now you're doing something about it, and it's like, no other side of that fucking line, mate. And that's kind of my thing, I guess. Also, because I know tyrannical people, not just myself, and not just you.
Yeah, you look straight.
No, you were not in my mind when I said that. But I know intense, tyrannical, angry people, and I know that they're out there, and it's not something people like to think about because it's not nice, right? People like to just pretend that everyone around them is really nice and sweet and not manipulative and scheming and all the rest of it, and it's like, no, there's some fucking sociopaths walking around, and And the thing about clever sociopaths is that, well, obviously they make it seem like they're not clever sociopaths.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so it's, the game they're playing is a tricky one, and I can slip up. Anyway, I'm talking again too long. I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Ended with conviction. Do not go gentle into that good night, man.
Nice.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And what about yourself, Dan?
Yeah. So, is there an equivalent story here?
Cool. Sorry, I'm just kind of unpacking that. But I think what was striking me through that, which it doesn't surprise me, is obviously there are kind of different ways, but I think it's a reasonably similar character arc.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were both probably a similar level of arrogant, narcissistic, everything's going to be fine because I'm great.
I think that's why we got on.
Yeah, almost certainly. At school, I was the Slytherin version of that, I suppose. But yeah, I guess we start with school day, so you both covered like academic and personal. So academically, without trying to sound like a dick, it was a piece of piss. Everything was so easy. I'd do it with my eyes closed. Be finished in like an exam 25 minutes into the time. I remember someone, I can't remember who it was, going to me. He was a really hard worker. Like, it really annoys me how I have to study all night and you just bodge the essay an hour before the deadline and get 100% and I still get a C. It's like, sorry motherfucker, that's just how it goes. But that trains you into some terrible, terrible habits, right? So I didn't learn how to persevere or persist or work or do anything hard because nothing was. So the second thing got hard, I just fucked it off. I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. Never dealt with that before, and it gives you, well, it certainly gave me a terrible imposter syndrome for a long time that I've only really got over in the last couple of years, to be honest. Like I was genuinely always expecting, not like literally, but the equivalent of whenever I try and do something, everyone would jump out and go, aha, gotcha, you're not real, like that kind of thing. So that was what.
What do you mean by that? Well, as in like you were like.
No, it's fucking silly. It's really silly, and I
Well, as in like everything you were doing was a kind of performance, or you were pretending to be competent, pretending to be. What?
I think to a degree, yeah.
Okay.
To a degree, but it's just like a fear of exposure. Because I had this thought in my mind for a very long time that sometimes does resurface, which is that like, I'm not a human, I'm not part of the same species, I'm not real, that I know I exist, not like in a literal, not like in, as you in a much more learned way would call a metaphysical way, but I'd call it a sensory way. Like, I know I literally am here, but I just had this feeling that I wasn't real and I was going to be exposed as such. And I still can't really explain why that was, but maybe, you go back to school days, so on a more personal level. It was like I was always playing like a very arrogant game. I was like mugging everything off. So this system's there to show like, how you can learn and how, you have to work hard to do something. Like, I can just piss it off. Look at that. I don't even care. I'm not doing it. It's so easy. Look at you fucking idiots around. And obviously that's really fucking terrible. But that's just how I was. But then you get into the long game. So after school and after university, you both know this, I've just completely noped out of the game of life for years. I thought, I've done everything I was meant to do. I've got straight A's, I've got a first in the degree, whatever. You all told me I was going to be rich and successful and it'd be easy as a result of this. And you all fucking lied. Because nothing came to me and I got rejected, so fuck you, I ain't doing it anymore. But then you have to take stock and realise it's not of course the external world isn't perfect, but it's your internal world that's fucked up. Coming from a place of a weird cognitive dissonance of extreme arrogance on one side and extreme self-loathing on the other side. These are two ideas that cannot marry.
No, they're two ends of one spectrum, aren't they?
So you have to fix them, and they actually can't coexist. So you do kind of flip-flop constantly, because like you kind of stoke a coal fire in a train. to go really, really quick, and then they go, oh fuck, I'm going
Need
too
to
quick,
get
and
the
then
brakes
you've got
on.
to piss on it.
Yeah.
So that obviously it's more developed than having a piss on it back in the day, but you get what I mean. So you're constantly going, wah, crash, like that.
Right.
As you say, overcorrecting.
It's quite destabilising.
All of it's destabilising as shit.
Well, and exhausting, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, I'd love to be able to delve coherently into these obviously deep-rooted psychological issues, but I'm not qualified enough. I just know what happened to me and the vague thought process, and it was a lot of talking to and annoying the shit out of friends and a lot of therapy. Like that completely fucking saved my life. I don't think I was ever going to like top myself, but I would have done fuck all and just stayed there and been
Sure.
like just.
It could have led to
angry
that
husk.
in the end.
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
like,
potentially.
you know, you may not
If I
thought
got to
that.
45 or whatever and just you know,
What is the point?
It's a waste of time.
Oh yeah, definitely. It
Yeah,
can compound.
that was a worry of mine too.
Yeah, because you can see the through line potentially. Kind of, well, the way I think, I know this might actually happen at some point. But yeah, it's basically about whatever the hell programming got into me from a young age, whether it was mine or imposed onto me or a mixture of everything, whatever. Don't want to get into like original sin and all that bollocks, but
Can if you want.
it basically, no, I'm not clever enough, was very much a mixture of,
You don't believe that
well,
that you're not clever.
in some ways I'm a fucking idiot.
Who am I, miss?
In some ways I am I'm trying not to use the R word. I am extremely special.
With a
Even
capital
more
R.
special
Yeah,
than me.
with a capital R.
Yeah, nice.
Of course,
Yeah.
we know now with our
Yeah.
study of all the types and stuff that's basically just what we call TI, that I can't do, introverted thinking. Can't do it for shit. What I'm very good at is big picture and ideas. I can understand the concept, fucking easy, but
Okay.
anything based on that requires, it's just me alone, I have to figure this out. I can't do it. I need to outsource that shit to someone else. And I always thought I was dumb and lazy. As it turns out, I just don't have that tool in the toolbox. And I was like, oh, thank fuck. Not because it's like, oh, I have no responsibility now. Whoopee! It's more like, oh, I don't have to think I'm a dick because I don't get this. That's cool. That's crap.
Right.
But the main thing I did have to reconcile basically was, how do I, basically, to use a Star Wars based analogy, how do I win my own duel of the fates in my own mind? So I've always flipped between, I'm listening to what's out there in the ether as far as I'm concerned, and there's if you're using the Star Wars analogy, the light side and the dark side have always spoken to me in equal measure, and I've always listened to them both in equal measure, because both things are valid, right?
Probably not.
Both things are valid. But how the fuck do you marry them up? So I used to flip between, I was like, yeah, really nice, Dan's going to help everyone, to Dan is not here anymore, Dan feels nothing but anger, Dan is basically Darth Vader and he will fuck you up and do nothing and no part of the game. Neither of which are particularly healthy or helpful dispositions. So it's about the self rising beyond that. And I think, like I said, I was able to achieve that via the help of friends with therapy. Big advert for that if you're listening. Go fucking do it, man. But mainly just through objective evidence of my actions, going like, if you ignore this, that is reflected back at you in that you're alright, you're a fucking idiot. So there's no way, if you're getting better and you're being a better person and everyone's reacting to stuff around you and you feel better, that's a good thing. Don't ignore that just because you have some arbitrary self-loathing in there. So that's really what the battle was about. And
That's pretty good advice, actually.
thank you. And I guess, to take it back to the essay question of how do you develop from like school age, and a lot of that came down to, it's superficial, but just like how I fucking looked. Because I was a fat little boy. I was a chubby boy all the way through. I think I looked younger than I was, which as a guy at school isn't a good thing.
No.
You look
definitely
like a little
not.
baby and you've got
Yeah.
a voice over, thinks mummy's answering the phone. when you pick it up and you feel fat and you know no one's going to fancy you in a million years. And I dressed like fucking Jeremy Clarkson when I was at
As he is
school
now,
well.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's all about changing that and basically just being who you know you want to be or you have to be. And the ironic thing is, I thought I'd lose all of that kind of grandeur and perceived internal power and this sense of destiny. I thought I'd lose that by kind of
just changed it, morphed it
Yeah,
into something.
by letting go of like the dark side. If you're obviously you still have to integrate that shit. But I thought I was scared of losing
the bad
some
parts of the dark
exactly.
side, yeah.
Of losing some kind of power through that.
Mm.
But what I've actually found is going through that and thinking about it, and with the strategies that I've mentioned already, is I've actually developed into that person I wanted to be or knew I had to be all along, just naturally. So I don't have to do like schemes or mugging people off anymore. They just seem to gravitate of their own volition. I don't have to trick them. I don't have to do a Palpatine, you know. Have you heard the tragedy of Darth Vader the Wise
Yeah.
shit? Of course I do that for my own amusement sometimes. It's funny. Who wouldn't do that if you could? But for the main part, it's all about if you are actually truly that person you know you want to be and you can be proud of yourself, then good shit will come and the rewards of that will come to you, not as you just caring about that, but it's just like a proxy. I don't want to be one of these like, oh, lucky girl, manifest it kind of things, but it all comes down to if you have that foundation, that intrinsic belief in yourself and that push and that kind of internal power, he says, without any grandiosity involved, then good shit comes. So I think I've waffled like way on a tangent from the literal sensory of what happened when I was at school. But basically it's very fresh in my memory because I think I was a very late bloomer with that. Like, I was fucked for a long time. I was not well, I was not a happy bunny. But I think the thing that saved me really was that ability to objectively go, get out of that. Because that's not right. You've got to look at that from a different perspective, and catch yourself out. And not just be in your own echo chamber, not loving the fact that, oh, this is all I've got and I am the darkness, like an edgy fucking teenager. Which you'd be amazed at how many people still do way
you ain't going to
into
get anywhere
adulthood.
with that.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
And you know, I can recognise these people like that because I was one of them. And now I find it amazing to see. I'm like, fucking hell, I was like that. What the fuck was going on, man?
That's like a lot of things though that people don't see what they're like in the moment. Like with like say toxic relationships, people don't see it for themselves. Everyone can see it around them, and they say, "Fucking get out! You're being a cunt," or all this.
Thanks, Carl.
And then after, it's like, well, John's expressed this. We spoke about this the other day. Actually, is that like going back to his bad relationship and coming out of that, he's like, God, how the fuck did I not see it? But at the time, we were like, no, come on, look. Come on, please see it. And you just can't. It's like, but
it's like you're living in a house and you've kind of blocked up the windows.
You can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing that could be said for them to go, oh yeah, I see it now. It's just
I think
like,
that's interesting.
you have to see it.
Well, you have to want to see it.
Yeah.
You have to.
So here's an interesting one then. So, given that I had nobody for a long time to see outside the echo chamber and struggled with knowing what the hell I was, what did you see looking through that kind of two-way window that I couldn't see outside of?
It was like you just couldn't settle on something. You just couldn't make a decision and stick with it. And it was like, and we couldn't tell you what decision because obviously we're not used to. We couldn't say go and do this. It was like, please just choose something and stick to it and do it. But it was always like, I'm going to do this. Yeah, you had all the ideas, and then it was like just before the first step, it was like, nah, not that one. and it was frustrating. No, obviously, yeah, me and John, and particularly John, had like said a few times, didn't he? Went in and said like, "Come on, do something, choose."
Yeah, and it's important to note for our listeners that it wasn't.
And you were like, "Yeah, I know."
John wasn't going like, "You stupid fuck."
No.
He really did care.
Oh yeah. He was like, "Please, like, choose something and do it," because you're sort of walking into a death trap here, and you ain't going to be able to get out into the Sarlacc pit.
But this was it. Aside from that and like duality of man thing that I had going on, it was like so utterly petrified of failure or rejection that I just.
But obviously, to us, we didn't know that was the case
because I was trying to be hard and not say it.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
It was paralysing.
To us, it was just like what it was. Yeah, we couldn't even see it.
I'll give you an analogy, which I actually didn't do in real life, but as a cricket person, right, batting always makes me anxious because like that's one mistake and you're fucked. So let's say in this scenario, my mindset would have been at that time, I'm so scared of how shit I'll feel if I really, really, really try and I fuck up and get out anyway, that I'd rather intentionally get myself out first ball than actually try.
Yeah.
That was what my life was like. I would rather just knock my own stumps over. Sorry, that for an American, that'd be like run myself out on first base or whatever, than face the reality that you tried and you were fucking shit.
Yeah, did a lot of that. It's just, if I don't try, can't fail.
Exactly, precisely that.
If I don't put the effort in, then there's no failure. You just avoid it. You chose.
So you didn't see that as a failure in itself. Like for me, that looks like
you wouldn't know.
That's as much as a failure.
Oh yeah, no, but immense amount of rationalisation going on here. Because you're like, because you rationalise it by saying, well, it's not a failure because it's a decision I've consciously made.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's a win. Because I choose what's right. I choose what's wrong. I choose where I go. Choose what I don't do.
Yeah.
I'm in control.
Down here, I make the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the train man?
Yeah.
Don't make the rules.
Down here, I'm God.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually that sentence itself. Down here is probably the right way of saying that. Down here in the shit where I am, I'm in control.
But
it's like
shit.
you are, mate,
Yeah.
and it's shit, right? You're in charge of your big pile of shit that you've got. Congratulations, well done, mate.
My empire of shit. Which
Yeah.
is the original version, by the way. That's bang on. You fucking nailed it there.
Yeah,
because you'd rather have that knowing that it's yours and knowing that I never tried, so at least I'll never know that was shit. You know, that kind of thing. Because for me, with a lot of the relationships in every context I've had, I've always found, in fact, it has been proven, which is quite unfortunate to be fair. For someone to like or love me, it is very much performance based. If I do not deliver, if I do not perform, if I do not flog myself into being exactly what you want me to be, then you will not like me. And it has actually happened a lot. Now, I'm clever enough now to see that that's the kind of things I was falling into or choosing, and not everyone's like that. But for a long time, if that's all you see, is that there were a few times where I was like, okay, I'm going to get out there, I'm not going to be like that anymore. And then the second I tried to do what everyone said I should do, which is, you just be yourself, boom, off you go. They hate you now. And it genuinely was like that. It's like, they don't like you anymore.
Yeah. Well, but it may also have been a kind of, you were orienting yourself towards people who were going to react like that.
That's my point.
Yeah. And so like you were kind of, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So you were,
but this is it, because you have to get out of that echo chamber, because I was actively trying to go for opposite people to that, but not emotionally smart
subconsciously.
enough. Yeah. I couldn't work it out.
Yeah.
Could not work it out for shit. And that's why you'll notice I've taken myself out of that game, because I know I can't work that out. So I'd rather not.
What it's probably I've been having a very similar conversation with myself recently. Is like I keep trying to be with people, and it may be the case that trying is the thing that's the problem. It's like you were saying earlier, like with that kind of backwards and forwards. You have to just eventually just stop thinking you can take control of everything, let go, and just allow yourself to be yourself. Stop trying to be performative. Stop trying to counter this. What was the word? The expression you used?
Don't rely on my memory.
Yeah, mine's worse. No, imposter syndrome, right? Trying to kind of correct for these things and just let go and stop trying, because the trying is probably the bit that's setting you back a little bit, because, well, with regards to, because one, trying to be yourself is a bit of a oxymoron. Like, it's like I'm trying to be yourself. It's like, well, stop, because you're just you, mate. So you just do that, right? Let's stop trying to do it.
Depends if you're wearing a mask or not.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
But trying to be yourself is depending on if you're performing or not. If you're putting on a, like I say, a mask, or you've been wearing a mask for so long, it does feel like that's you now, but it's not.
Yeah. So, and it's hard for you to see that because you're so used to the mask.
You've been looking in the mirror with the mask on.
Yeah, and you're like, well, the mask's me, and it's like, well, no, there's something nice Air 5 there. You know, getting away with gay shit like that with it.
Toxic.
Cancel.
With a capital R.
Oh shit! There's a whole crowd of pink-haired people descending on us.
Yeah, no, I just like letting go, right, and just allowing, like, because when you're trying too hard to be with someone, it comes across. I think like it comes across you're like too intense, or it comes across as performative, or it comes across as, I don't know. And so like maybe it's best.
Fabricated.
Yeah. Well, so maybe it's best to stop trying to be with people and just be, and then you will attract the people who are attracted to you.
Ain't fucking happened yet.
Well, but it happens. It happens. What happens. Or it doesn't, and then that's another indicator.
A big problem with the methodology of like the coupling world at the moment, though, isn't it? Because it's basically unacceptable to do it in any way other than on internet.
Yeah.
These days,
I just don't.
It is hard to approach people. Not even if you're not a bottler, they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, it's not. It's like frowned upon to.
Yeah, because you don't want to be the person who's violating their vibe.
You also can't, because everyone's fucking walking around with headphones in, so you can't ever get any interaction, even if you see them day to day.
But you know what happens is you are essentially putting yourself out there as an advert, and the problem is you meet up somewhere for a few times, and they're putting their best foot forward, so they're essentially accidentally mugging you off, and then you are with them in the end, and then all their shit comes out. Now everyone's got shit, but it's very easy to get mugged off. I think, especially as a bloke, because we tend to be more like, well,
yeah, they're fit.
Well, there's that, but also, what you see is what you get. With as a bloke, if you're alright, you say you're alright. If you're pissed off, you say you're pissed off. But it isn't like that, and you tend, well, certainly I know you, Jace, don't do this as well. It's when you meet someone, you are being yourself. You're being natural, but you don't know the other person is doing that in return. They're putting their best self forward, and then you kind of get hooked in, and then they're like, surprise!
Yeah, this is me.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a Chris Rock joke a long time ago. He says, you're not meeting someone on a first date, you're meeting their representative.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're not meeting them, you're meeting their representative.
Yeah.
And then later, like three dates later, it just all comes down, and all the shit comes with it.
Yeah.
No, I think men do that as well. I think.
I'm sure they do. I don't know what they do because I'm not going on dates with them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So what are our take-home points to knit this together?
You aren't who you are when you're at school. You mostly develop after school.
Yeah.
It's one thing I would say.
And
definitely.
do the shit you're scared of. You all know what you have to do.
100%. Yeah.
It's a thing you don't want to do.
Yeah. That's what that means. Insta-quilliness and relatable. Tattoo I got after my first year of uni means what you need most will be found where you least want to look. So it's like the thing that scares you.
Yeah.
Go and be in it.
Dragon of Chaos.
Go and stand in the urinal when you can't pee and wait till you can pee. No, it's going to get.
Have you looked under your bed?
So basically, be yourself.
But don't try and be yourself.
Oh, we fucking
revelatory.
Be yourself. Don't try to be yourself.
Yeah.
Let go, but don't try to do that either.
No.
This hasn't been any help.
Yeah.
As it turns out, that thing people have been trying to figure out tens of thousands of years, fucking hard to work out.
We've nailed it, boys. No, look, it's like it's. I think the point about the mask is you can identify. It's going to sound really trivial, but you can identify with yourself in the moment, right? And it's you do miss the wider picture of you as this thing that changes right from day to day, and you can get stuck in a mindset. You can get stuck in rationalizations that you have and fears that you have, and you can't see necessarily where you're going wrong all the time, and you also don't want to hear it when other people point it out to you, and so you're kind of like there's a way,
because if it's a deficiency you don't want to accept that.
Well, it's painful. It's
It's
painful for you to learn that you're wrong in like 5 or 6, sometimes 20 ways, right? Because it's like Jesus fucking
But
Christ.
how do you get your muscles bigger? You rip them to shit.
You have to. Pain is growth inducing, and let go, right? Like
Answer.
let it go, let it go. Go to Thailand and find yourself. There you go.
Or go inside yourself and find Thailand. That's
Well,
next level shit.
Or just get someone
Not
from
after that
Thailand.
lunch we've just had.
Yeah. And if you want to know who you are, just fucking ask someone, they'll tell you.
Someone who loves you, and then maybe they'll lie to you because they care.
And that is the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm not joking, it actually is.
All right.
Right.
This has been the
Sons of Aries podcast.
beautiful. See you later, everyone. Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Woo!